That's what I see and hear on the media. This Easter, I want to traverse a larger part of Machakos to reaffirm this. Kwanzaa, that People's Park, will be my first stop. So to have fun while doing that, Jamaica, do keep your thoughts and comments coming in on what you'll be doing in terms of domestic tourism this Easter. That is the basis of conversation in studio this morning. Now, domestic tourism helps in geographical spread of tourism benefits while enhancing nation building and integration. It is certainly one of the many ways of conserving cultural and natural resources that are in, but what are the trends in domestic tourism? So to discuss this with us in studio is Judy Kefa-Gona, founder of Sustainable Travel and Tourism Agenda, an organization that uses education and research as well as training to promote sustainable tourism. Many thanks for joining us on News Center, and happy Easter to you.
Michelle, and happy Easter to you.
So, like we had there, one of the comments saying, they've had in the media, that Machakos County is doing quite a lot in beautifying the county. They would like to traverse that county. So what pushes Kenyans to domestic tourism?
Most Kenyans are traveling for psychological reasons. Kenyans are traveling to feel good. Kenyans are traveling to learn. Kenyans are traveling to earn some bragging rights. And you can see this on social media, that it will be quite busy on social media this weekend. Everybody will be trying to post a piece of their paradise that they found, their new experience that they found. So mainly, most Kenyans are traveling for psychological reasons. And it's a good thing because for a long, long time, Kenyans spend their weekends and their time at home.
So 20.3% growth recorded in the tourism sector in 2017, especially when it comes to domestic tourism. What was stopping Kenyans from traveling initially, and what is changing this time?
A number of things stopped Kenyans from traveling initially. And I think the opening up of the information space has enabled Kenyans to see what Kenya has to offer. In the past, you had to walk into a tour operator's office, or you had to get hold of a magazine, or you had to watch a program on TV to know what Kenya has to offer. But today, you turn on social media and you've got everything that you want to know about Kenya. So this availability of information has enabled Kenya to know what is on offer. Plus, there has been a lot of disruption in how tourism is organized today. We have a lot of young tour operators who are showcasing Kenya in different ways. These things like Twende Mombasa, Twende Turkana, Twende Machakos. And it's just like, let's fill up a bus and let's get going. You don't have to walk into a tour operator's office and do a lot of stuff. So technology has played a big role, but we cannot forget the significance of the rising middle class in Kenya that has made available disposable income as well.
And we've seen a diversification in tourism as well. I mean, there's environment tourism, ecotourism, so many different kinds of tourism in Kenya. And STTA is focusing more, is focusing more on the 3 Ps. That is people, planet, profit. How does this integrate in terms of boosting domestic tourism?
You started by telling us, Michelle, the contribution of tourism and even domestic tourism to our economy, which means tourism is an important economic sector. But we also know that there are limits to growth. And there's also what we call good growth. There's growth where the benefits and linkages spread to the smallest person in the community. So we at STTA advocate for a form of tourism that benefits the environment and benefits the host communities as well. We don't want to see host communities as spectators of tourism. They see people come and they see people go, they see hotels built, and they see suppliers bring supplies to these hotels and just watch by. Now, the form of tourism that we advocate for is that as we design and develop tourism as a whole, as a sector, we must take account of the interest of the host community and also the environment. That is what we mean by tourism that takes care of people, planet, and the environment.
All right, I see somebody here asking, what does STTA stand for? That is a Sustainable Travel and Tourism Agenda. It is an organization that uses education as well as research to promote sustainable tourism. And among the many reasons people did not travel initially is because of the perceived cost implications, because there was no information on how much it would cost. It's probably for the rich, it's only for the white, it's only for the foreigners. How do we maintain that constant flow of information as well as data on local tourism?
We need to do a lot of research. We need to open up new platforms for sharing information at grassroots level. Shows like this one, use of media, use of print media and electronic media. But we also need to go out to institutions. We are told that by the year 2050, more than 75% of travelers will be millennials.
Right.
They're right now in high school and they're in universities. We've got to reach them right now with that information so that by the time they leave these institutions, they get their income. They already know and have the options of how they're going to travel.
Right.
So I pay a lot of attention on the youth and the universities, and I'm so glad that we have a lot of youth organizations in tourism that are coming up, that are promoting travel. They're promoting group travel. They're promoting friends travel, which is a growing trend in domestic tourism in Kenya. Yeah.
How would you say infrastructure development has played into probably promoting domestic tourism in the country?
It has played a significant role, especially in coast tourism with the SGR. We cannot underestimate the role that the SGR has played in opening up the coast for domestic tourism. And I know that that has been said a lot by facilities at the coast. There are more places that could be opened for tourism if only the perception changed and the costs, you mentioned costs and the offer of the product was reviewed, and that's why I said we need a lot of disruption for domestic tourism to grow more.
Let's focus on the statistics here. 4 million bed nights taken up by Kenyans in 2017, and that is up from 3.5 million in 2016. So that's a 15.9% growth.
Yes.
Do we have, first of all, the capacity to sustain local tourism in terms of bed capacity?
I think we do have, but that answer will be dependent on the geographic region. If you look at the coast where bed occupancy is still run between 30 or most of the year it's less than 30 or 40%, and that is the time Kenyans come in to fill in this bed, then you will say that we have enough beds for domestic tourism at the coast. But the bigger question will be, if we had a similar growth in international tourism, will we still have the same bed capacity, or we will now start running into risks of over-tourism in some of our destinations, whereas we have a vast country. In places like the Savos, we have very, very little bed density per acre. I think we've got up to 500 acres per bed. And whereas in the Mara, we are down to less than 20 per bed. So you can see the differences. We have not done studies in Mombasa to see what at the coast to see what the bed density is. So we might think that we don't have enough beds, but it's also because of the spread of tourism across the country and what is accessible for Kenyans today. Naivasha, Nakuru, Machakos, and the coast is very accessible for domestic tourism. When you start talking about our national parks and reserves, we've got the historical issue of perception and how tourism was designed. It was never designed for consumption by Kenyans. So it still remains expensive. It is not a perception. It still remains expensive.
For most people.
For most people.
When we began, however, you talked about viewing domestic tourism holistically so that even the grassroots, the communities in those areas can feel the benefits of the same. And in terms of promoting cultural tourism, I mean, we have a lot of cultures in the country, but mostly people only hear of the Masai Maras and the Dianis. When it comes to promoting cultural tourism, what are we doing as a country?
I think we're beginning to do something, but we must be honest with ourselves. We have done very little. Even when we market ourselves abroad, we only take the Maasai. We don't take anybody else. So it is our undoing that we have not focused on the other 42 communities that we have. And when we talk about, if we're not showcasing a Maasai, we are showcasing Maasai beadwork as part of our culture. Yet we are richer than that. So it is our own undoing. We have not done much. We know that in this country we have what we call homestays that were meant to promote cultural tourism. You rarely see these places being marketed in mainstream information about Kenya. Even Kenyans who are traveling, they don't know that I can go to Western Kenya and go and stay in a home. The owner lives in Nairobi,
home.
has a beautiful. I have an opportunity to immerse myself in that culture by staying in somebody's home, other than checking into a hotel in the city and then checking out and saying, I have been to this place.
Right.
Yeah, so we have not exploited that opportunity, and I hope that it is one of our diversification areas.
All right. Let's talk about what people can do then this Easter holidays. It's just beginning. What are the options and choices for Kenyans in terms of domestic tourism, especially cost-effective ones?
If you're in Nairobi, let me talk about Nairobi. Nairobi has about 25 attractions, getaways, day getaways. You can go live in the morning and come back in the evening.
Right.
The average entry fees, some are free entries, but the average you will pay is between 500 shillings to enter, kids 200 shillings, or even free. 25 options for those living in Nairobi, which is very, very cost effective. And most of these places are accessible by public transport. And this is some of the information when we talked about what are we going to do to sustain this. This is some of the information we have to give to people. There's a little booklet produced by Kenya Tourism Board, and I think the Nairobi County, 24 hours in Nairobi. How many Kenyans have seen it? How many Nairobians have seen it? The things that you can do in Nairobi.
Right. I am just hearing about it.
There is 24 hours in Nairobi. The things you can do within Nairobi, and there are 25. Attractions only. I'm not talking about nightlife. I'm just talking about day getaways. 25. Now, if we add everything else, there's so much you can do in 24 hours in Nairobi.
All right. I want to take a few comments from what people are saying they will be doing, I beg your pardon, this Easter holiday. But even as we focus on that and domestic tourism, what are the projections this year? Because there seems to be a gradual rise in domestic tourism in the country.
I don't have the exact figures, but what I know is that as a strategy, the Kenya Tourism Board probably is looking at growing the figures of domestic tourism. We all know that they've been having these exhibitions across the country in different places to sensitize Kenyans on what is available on offer, especially ahead of this Easter. They have done a marvelous job. Nanyuki, Machakos, Nairobi, Kisumu, different places to try and get Kenyans to know where they can go and what they can do. So definitely we're looking at a growth in this sector. Plus, like I said, there's a growing number of aggressive young tour operators. That's what I call them, aggressive young tourism operators. And they are getting Kenyans to leave their homes.
Right.
And so we can see a continued growth in domestic tourism.
All right, that's quite interesting. Let me just take some of the comments here. We're asking you, what is your plan for domestic tourism this Easter? Benson Mushiri says, I'm with my family, Sabina, my daughter, Lorene, and we're from Murang'a. We're going to be visiting the Nairobi National Park. And this is something that many Kenyans also don't do, visiting a national park. I mean, how, again, do we continue raising awareness that people can do this as family time?
I think KWS has done a tremendous job in trying to get Kenyans to know that these parks are for you and you can visit them, plus the availability of transport to get you there. But I think, like I said, the traveling population now, those with disposable income right now, are those who did not have the information. They're trying to catch up with the information.
Right.
Those who are coming, the millennials, those who are coming, the next travelers, will have the information. And we can see that we will see more visits to National Park. We also have those with disposable income and are traveling are people with young families, just like the comment that you just read. And they, most of the time, are looking for comfort, security, safety. And therefore, there's this perception that the parks are wild. Will I be safe with my children, my little kids in there? What about if something happens? Can I get to a hospital? Can we get money if we need to? Can we get out of there quickly? Will we get stuck in there? So there's all that comfort that travelers with young families are looking for. And that's why Naivasha, Mombasa becomes very popular because you know that you're almost home away from home. But when you go to a national park, there's the feeling of the wild. I don't know what to expect, and what the perceptions of a time of what it is stops a lot of Kenyans. And the perception that it's expensive as well, and the entry fees. I think these entry fees, and people perceive it in dollars. They think like, because it's written in dollars, I have to
It's
have
probably very
dollars.
expensive.
And that's why we see that there's a lot of psychological hindrances to Kenyans traveling because of the historical perception on how tourism was developed and how it has been promoted over the years.
All right, and finally, Judy, what does the sustainable travel and tourism agenda have in store for tourism in the country for the next year?
First, I want to say that we exist to inspire confidence in sustainable development of tourism and conservation. Like I said earlier, there must be limits to growth, and we must be able to measure our growth and know where it is going to. So we have amazing projects with the youth. Like I said, I am passionate about the youth, tomorrow's travelers. So we run a program with universities. Every month we host seminars and tourism talks in different universities across the country, hosted by the universities, organized by the student tourism associations of those universities. And we discuss all interesting things. Last week, we were at USIU and we discussed over tourism. They are young people. We were asking them, do you think that Kenya is at risk at one point of suffering over tourism?
Right.
Maybe something that most people will not think we should be talking about because we are still chasing the numbers. But at STTA, we think that we must think sustainable all the time. So even as we think growth, let's talk about. So we engage the youth. That's one of the programs that we do. Then we have other platforms that engage the entire industry in creating awareness about the issues of sustainable tourism.
All right.
Now, I want to finish by saying that sustainability is a growing concept. We all know about the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. Tourism cannot ignore them. They will affect tourism.
Right.
So as we grow, we must pay attention to issues of sustainability in tourism. So we exist to just do that, to create awareness that, look, tourism is good, travel is good, we love the money, we love the numbers, but as we do that, we need sustainability.
That's a good point to end it on. Many thanks. That is Judy Kefagona, who is the founder of Sustainable Travel and Tourism Africa. And that is an organization that is trying to educate about tourism, sustainable tourism, especially through research. Agenda, I beg your pardon, it is a Sustainable Travel and Tourism Agenda. I beg your pardon for that. Many thanks for speaking to us. When we come back, we'll be going live to the coastal county of Mombasa, where reporter Victor Gale will be joining us live with details of the Easter celebrations in Mombasa. Later on, we'll also be headed to Kakamega, where reporter Willie Lusige is. But also, when we come back, it is the holiday season, and many parents are worried what